Hello my dear friends, this is Prashant Mavane and I welcome all of you in special video lecture on one of the basic subject for your civil services preparation, that is political science. And in political science today we are going to talk about discrimination. Now dear friends, this lecture is of course very basic in nature. Right, some of the things that we are going to talk about is going to be very basic. We have talked about these things earlier as well, but as you know that all the lectures, particularly the basic lectures that I provide to you, are of different nature. The way or the things that make these lectures a bit different from the other lectures that you generally tend to see on YouTube or at your classes is they are predominantly, generally speaking, right, they are coming from NCERTs, right, and they are limited to NCERTs only. But the thing that I strongly believe, and particularly for your civil services preparation, is that if you just stick with NCERTs, right, if you limit yourself to NCERTs, then it is not going to be helpful to you. I do have reason when I say that. I know it would be a shock for many of you that Prashant is asking us to not stick to NCERTs. Dear friends, I'll give you a couple of points to think about. Now, you may find this sort of chapters, discrimination and diversity and other sort of chapters in, I think, in standard 6th textbook of NCERTs, right? But for civil services, you have to be at least 21-year-old. Now, if you are 21 year plus, that means you have had a bit of experience of life, isn't it? You have either finished your college, you have gone through the rough and tumble of teenage life, and then now you are an adult. Now you have voting rights, you might have driving license, right? There are many things that you can do because you are an adult now. The other thing is that civil services, right, UPSC, of course NCERTs are important, but you have to read it like a well-educated person is reading standard 6th book. That means you have to read between the lines. In that book or in that chapter you may read discrimination, definition of discrimination, etc., etc. But what makes this lecture different is that it will provide you some practical examples from your surrounding. The things that are taking place around you will be included in these lectures, right? So with that note, let's crack on, let's move ahead. Now remember, you would be able to download the PDF of this lecture from UPSC-IAS-exams.com. If you haven't checked my portal yet, then I would request all of you to do it as soon as possible. You may also find special video lectures of your General Studies 1, 2, 3 and 4. You will find basic lectures of geography, history, some how-to sort of videos are also available there. There are special articles that are designed in such a way that major and complex topics are broken down into simple to the point articles. So do not forget to check that one out. Now, introduction. People who are different from us sometimes are teased, laughed at, or not included in a certain activity or group. I'm sure you might have faced something like this in your life, isn't it? Remember the time when it would be your friends who might be teasing you. They would form a group and they would be teasing you, or they would be laughing on you, right? And it becomes a torture, or it becomes a sort of ragging when people continue doing that thing for over a period of time, isn't it? And that happens because many a times people are different from majority of the people, and that is the reason the person who is different is being targeted. The other thing is that this ostracizing, that means not dealing with people because they are different, right? That creates a feeling of helplessness. It generates anger, it hurts, and makes us sad when we go through such experiences, isn't it? I'm sure you might have faced this thing either outside or inside home as well. And when I say inside, you know, many a times you are not behaving properly, then your whole family will not speak to you. It is a way of training you, right? So of course in childhood everyone might have experienced this sort of things. I know personally that I have seen, I can remember many a times because of my misbehavior, I was put in the naughty corner and no one used to speak with me until I correct myself. So that was all part of learning experiences. But when this things takes place with grown-up people, right, then that is something serious. That is definitely something serious. It's not about learning experiences, it is about discriminating people. We are going to learn more about it in today's lecture. Now, before we move any further, let's talk about identity. I'm not talking about your Aadhaar card right here. When I say identity, means the things that make us what we are. That's your identity. Now, you could have multiple identity throughout your day. You could be, say for example, you could be a member of tennis club. You could be enjoying swimming as well. So if you go for swimming every single day, then that for that particular hour you are member of that swimming group or something. Then you have, like say for example, you like to wear certain brands of shoes. You might like certain kind of or certain brand of perfume. You'd be riding or driving a particular brand of car, and you'd be living in this society, that society. So there are many things in our whole day. We tend to keep on switching our identities, right? We would be a tennis player in the morning. In the evening we could be a swimmer, could be wearing Nike or Adidas or whatever, right? So it is just a small example. Apart from that, how we live, right? The way we live our life, the language we speak, our food, the clothes we wear, the games we play, and the things we celebrate. Generally speaking, the things that we do or celebrate, or the way we live, this all things forms our identity. And this identity is very inherent. It is very personal to us, right? The clothes that you wear is something that is very personal to you. And if someone, of course, passes a negative comment on what you are wearing, then it does not feel right, isn't it? Then the most important thing that I would like all of you to focus on today is that the things about the food we eat, the clothes we wear, right, all the things that are associated with our identity has its root in geography and history of the place where we live. I'll give you a small example. Now, as I told you earlier as well, isn't it, we have talked about it in how to preparation lectures. I've talked about in daily current affairs analysis, special video lectures. I've told you many times about this thing, that the subjects of your civil services, right, are interconnected with each other, right? They are interconnected with each other. When I say they are interconnected, I mean that we are learning political science at the moment, isn't it? But if you are not having an in-depth knowledge regarding basic geography, then there are many things that you won't be able to comprehend. For example, if you are living in torrid zone, I'm not going into detail regarding torrid zone, but if you are living in torrid zone, then naturally you are going to wear for the longest or for the maximum amount of 1 year, right? For many months you would be wearing clothes that are made up of cotton, right? You won't be wearing a complete gentleman's suit if you are a man, and if you are a lady, then you are not going to wear clothes that are that are quite thick, because you are living in torrid zone. It's going to be hot in this part of the world, so cotton clothes are most preferable. Air conditioners or fan, right? You'd be drinking more of cold drinks or cold water and things like that. The fruits you eat, the food you even cook would be accustomed with the hot weather in which we are living. And based on these things, our festivals, right, our festivals will be celebrated. The food or the crop that we grow, everything will be based on geography, and based on your geography, your culture will develop, and that will become a part of your history as well. So in future, dear friends, any sort of things that you learn about any place, right, or about any people or culture, then do try to associate and do try to look at with the prism of geography and history. Do ask or raise question like what would be the geography? Would it be in the torrid zone, temperate zone, or frigid zone? If it is in torrid zone, then what are some of the common things that you find in torrid zone? And based on that, there are many things that you can understand about any particular place. Now, I'll give you a small example as well. Like generally, we believe that, right, maximum number of Indians are vegetarian. I'm giving you a very practical example because we are preparing for civil services, and I believe that the more practical example we talk about, it will be registered and it will stay in your mind for the longest period of time, because you have lived it, or you might have talked about it or heard about it somewhere and somewhere. So generally there is a myth around that most Indians are vegetarians, right? And I'm sure you might have seen people who say that, who associate vegetarianism as a sign of religiousness. And on the other side, people also tend to believe that eating non-vegetarian diet is a sign of cruelty, and the people who are eating non-vegetarian food, they are cruel compared to vegetarian people, right? I'm sure you might have heard about this thing a lot. I have. In India, I have heard about it, right? And the thing is, it's something personal. It's about what people want to eat. But nowadays, because of telecommunication and transportation, right? When I say telecommunication, I'm also including like all the media in the sense you have your television, you have your mobile phone, you have your social media. On your television you have a channel, right, food channel, that show you the food that is consumed by Italian people, French people, and people from other parts of the world. So you may try to cook that food at your place, and that is possible because of telecommunication. The other thing is transportation. The development of transportation, we have roadways, waterways, airways, right? So because of that, all the products that are growing in other part of the world is available in your supermarket because of supply chain, and supply chain is possible because of a good transportation facilities, right? So veg diet and non-veg diet we are talking about. Now, do you know one of the most non-cruel or non-violent men to walk on this earth was Lord Buddha, and he used to consume non-vegetarian diet. This is a small example, right? I'm not against anyone. I'm not against vegetarian or I'm not against non-vegetarian people. It is just about a small example, a practical example, indicating that it's about geography and history of the place where you are living, or about people who are coming from a particular region. The other example I would like to give you is Swami Vivekananda, right? He was from Bengal, and one of his favorite dish was made up of fish. Now, geography of Bengal. We know that Bay of Bengal is over there. Good amount of fish is there. Plentiful of rice. So predominantly their staple diet, right, is fish and rice. But if you come to other part, like say for example Gujarat, right? Now most of Gujaratis are vegetarian. Right? Most of. I'm not saying that 100% Gujaratis are vegetarian, but most of Gujaratis are vegetarian. Now you may argue that over this side as well, on the western side of India, we have coast, blah blah blah, but still people are not eating or consuming vegetarian, non-vegetarian diet. The reason is history. Gujarat is exporting fish and things like that, but the history of the religious history, right, that of course becomes the part of culture of this place, Gujarat. So we have two examples of two different places in one country, where in one part of the country non-vegetarian diet is considered okay, and the other part people must find it a bit not so okay eating non-vegetarian food. But the reason is predominantly geography and history. Right friends, so that's everything regarding identity. Now let's move ahead. Prejudice. Now it means to judge other people negatively or see them as inferior. Right, this is basic definition of prejudice. It means to judge other people negatively or see them as inferior. Prejudice can be about people's religious belief, color of their skin, the region they come from, the accent they speak in, and the clothes they wear, etc. Remember clothes as well. The cloth, I gave you a small example of about torrid zone, right? Have you ever wondered why you might have seen Arabic people, right, on your television, or it could be possible that many of your friends could be Arabic, right? Now they wear a long sort of gown. I don't know the Arabic name of that particular dress, but they wear a white sort of gown and they cover their head with a shimag, or they call it a sort of a big cloth, right? Piece of cloth. Now, what is the reason behind them wearing this sort of clothes? One of the reasons is that they live in a desert area, and for them it is very important to cover their skin. In desert you have storms as well, so wearing something over your head, right, particularly a long piece of cloth, helps you from heat. You can also cover your face in time of, if there is any sort of moving wind which is carrying dust, so it does not enter into your eyes or your nose, right, so that you can keep on breathing and things like that. So basically it is one of the most comfortable dress that you can wear in this part of the world. But imagine if you wear the same cloth in, say for example, Europe, then it is going to be, you're going to feel not so comfortable because of too much cold in, generally speaking, many part of Europe. So skin of the color again associated with whether you are living in torrid zone, whether you are living in temperate zone or frigid zone. If you are living in a hotter zone, then naturally you are going to have a darker skin, because more sunlight, you are going to get more tan, right? And if you are living in places like Sweden or countries like that, then you are going to get very minimum amount of sunlight, so your skin is going to be fair, right? So this is something very natural. It is not something man-made or things like that. But then as well, we see cases that darker people or people with dark skin are considered inferior, and many a times they are treated badly. Prejudice prevents us to make friends with people who are different from us, right? This is one of the most negative thing regarding prejudice. And prejudice tends to make people behave in such a way that it may hurt other. So of course prejudice is negative. The other thing is stereotypes. Now when we fix people into one image, we create stereotypes. When people say that those who belong to a particular country, religion, sex, race, or economic background are stingy, bad, lazy, criminal, or dumb, they are using stereotype. I'm sure you might have many examples on this thing. Like regarding sex, people say that boys do not cry, and it is the job of the girl who keeps on crying. But modern science has proven that crying is something associated with human beings. It is a sort of emotion. It is like if you laughing, right? When we laugh or when we smile, we are happy at that point of time. It gives us a relaxing feeling. In the same side, when a person cries, then after crying, after letting it all go, again happiness, and once the sorrow is over, happiness, it will create a space for happiness. And the people who are not crying may find they may also find in long run that mental diseases may also pop up, or they may face some sort of weird sort of behavior because of keeping some sort of sorrow deep inside them. So it of course creates psychological scars as well. The modern science has proved it, and there are many people, doctors and scientists, who are working on this. Is not something limited to India only, right? This stereotype that men should not cry is one of the most widespread stereotypes. You may find it in America as well, in other developed countries as well. This is something we have to learn, that a human being is a human being, whether male or female, and emotions work in the particular same way, may it be man or woman. Anyways, this is all about stereotypes, right? It prevents us from looking at a person as a unique individual. We see them in a fixed image, and that again prevents us from making friends with them. And many a times it is us who lose. The person who is having stereotype, in long run, he or she is the one who is going to be in a loss. Now, discrimination. The reason why I have talked with you for, roughly speaking, 15 to 20 minutes on this basic things is because, as I told you earlier as well, that these lectures are different from the other lectures because practical examples. I tried to provide you some practical examples regarding stereotype, regarding prejudice, but now we are going to talk about in detail on discrimination, right? Now when people act on their prejudice or stereotypes, right, it generates or it creates discrimination for other. Now we are going to learn this discrimination from the recent example of African people in India. You know, a couple of days ago, African students were beaten up by people in a part of Delhi because a teenager boy was found dead, I guess, and he was dead because he consumed too much of drugs. And people of this area believed that it is these African guys, the students of Africa, from Africa, who are associated with dealing with drugs, right? This was their prejudice and stereotype against African students. Stereotyping and the inability to distinguish between an individual and a group led to attack on innocent students of Africa in India. this is one of the most shameful incident that took in recent times. The victims allege that they were asked about their cannibal dietary habits by the police. Dear friends, if you do not know what is cannibalism or cannibal, I'll explain it to you. A human being who consumes meat as a food, right? Meat that is coming from other human beings. So basically, a human being who eats the flesh of other human being is known as cannibal, right? So imagine these African students were asked by the police who is there to protect people from discrimination, police who is there to maintain law and order. The police is asking the victims, and in this case the victims are African students who are in India. They were asked that are they cannibal or not. Imagine the trauma. This is a sheer, utter example of stereotyping people. The fact that people of African origin favor certain parts of the city indicates that they do not feel secure. And remember, only vulnerable retreat into ghettos. Ghettos is that you find one particular people living in a particular area, and the reason is that living in proximity with each other gives them a sort of comfort and safety, because they are not feeling comfortable outside that particular area because of negative experience that they have gone through. So African students and people from Africa are living in one particular area in Delhi, and because they are not treated well, or they are being treated with prejudice and stereotype. Now, Indian student bodies that normally mobilize quickly against inequalities did not join the affected students in protest. We remember the case of Hyderabad University, universities of Delhi, right, and other parts of India as well. If there is anything going on, then the student lobby or the student association, they do associate quickly, they mobilize quickly. Even in the Jallikattu case as well, we have talked in detail that it was students who organized this whole protest against banning Jallikattu in the Marina Beach of Chennai. So these student bodies, right, they never, of course later on there were students who joined it, but it was not in that size, and that aggression was not registered, or it was not found, because these student bodies, they never associated themselves with African students. There is always a untold wall, right? There is always a division, because that could be one of the reason why they never stood up for these poor African students in India. Now, what happens in West to Indian people is not taken into consideration by people who attacked African students. There was a big hype in media, isn't it, dear friends, regarding Indians being attacked by people in America, people in Australia, people in other parts of the world as well. Whenever an Indian is being attacked, then it becomes part of front page headlines, isn't it? You find editorials on it. Of course, it is a sad thing, but we should not forget that if our people are being attacked outside our country, right, and if we see it as a racial discrimination act, then we should not do the same thing to the people who are coming from other country, particularly African students, because they are coming here in our country to educate themselves. They come with hope, and with hope to make their future bright. They come here to access knowledge, and the reason why they are coming here is our institutions are good, And the other thing is they are not as expensive as institutions in Europe and America or Canada. So they prefer India. The other things behind the other reasons why they prefer India is a sort of fraternity between the people of Africa and India, because we were in the same shoe. If you go back 70 years ago, then we were in the same shoe. They were also being different countries. Of course, Africa is a continent, but many countries of Africa were either ruled by British, French, Spaniards, or Holland, right? There were different European countries or Western world used to dominate or colonize different countries of Africa. And we know very well that our country was again colonized by British people. And some parts of India were still under control of Portuguese, like Goa, right? Diu, Daman, and Puducherry was under French people. So we were in the same shoe. So freedom struggle and things like that. And after that, non-aligned movement, many countries of Africa joined a non-aligned movement. It was leader of Egypt and Jawaharlal Nehru who were considered the main leaders behind non-aligned movement. And we know very well that Egypt again is an African country. When I talked about Egypt, one more thing popped up in my mind, that it is one of the oldest civilization, isn't it? Just like our civilization, Egyptian civilization again is one of the oldest civilization, which is of course African civilization. Now we want to make our country a knowledge hub, right? We have talked about it in daily current affairs analysis that President Pranab Mukherjee, he is talking about improving the standard of our institutions so that we can see ourselves somewhere in top 100 knowledge institution in the world. For that, not only good teachers will be required, but a good, safe environment is also necessary. If we are racially discriminating students from other country, then it is not going to help us at all. And imagine this is very paradoxical when we compare it with our history, because Nalanda, we have talked about it in I believe in history lecture or geography lecture, but I'm sure we have talked about it, that Nalanda University was one of the first university in the world, and that was in India, and people from different parts of the world used to come here in India to study. This is our heritage. This is the height of our culture. And in the same country, in 2017, when we have internet, we have good facilities, right? We are developing and we are having good economic growth, but our behavior is such that we are discriminating people because of the color of their skin. We want to attract capital, isn't it? We want capital for Make in India. That's how we are going to increase our growth. But do you think, is it possible for a country which is racially discriminating people will attract a good amount of capital? I do not think so. It is a very negative sign. If our newspapers are showing us the incidents that take place on Indian people, then of course, if you attack some person from Nigeria, then the front page of Nigerian newspapers will be filled up with the incident that took in Delhi, and that will create a very negative image of our country. It will hurt medical tourism, right? Medical tourism from Africa is a sector that is providing jobs to lots and lots of Indian people, right? Because they are coming here in our country as a medical tourist, doctors and hospitals of our countries are doing good. It is creating jobs. The other thing is Atithi Devo Bhava. It is part of our heritage and culture, isn't it? And in the same country we are doing, or we are seeing this sort of incident. The other reality is that even today whiteness of skin is given preference, and you can see this in matrimonial adverts on newspapers and other platforms. Africa has rich cultural heritage. We have already talked about a small things, or a very tiny example of Egyptian civilization. Remember, Mohandas K. Gandhi, the father of our nation, became Mahatma in Africa. It was in Africa where his first satyagraha and non-violence, his methods were practiced, and it became successful in Africa. Bharat Ratna, Nelson Mandela was an African. Right? Nelson Mandela, he is conferred Bharat Ratna. Barack Obama's parents were from Africa. I have many examples, dear friends. Now, India has several century-old trading relations with the continent of Africa, and many people of Indian descent live and have lived in Africa for centuries. Recently, we have seen African students in India are also involved in Swachh Bharat mission. Malik Ambar from Ethiopia was famous and powerful military commander of Mughals, who also laid the foundation of Maratha kings, like after that which rose, we see the lineage of this Maratha kingdoms of Shivaji. Before that, it was this gentleman Malik Ambar who laid the foundation. In 2015, India hosted the third India-Africa Forum Summit in New Delhi. Right? In modern diplomacy, dear friends, the quality of people-to-people contact is the factor determining the overall strength of a bilateral relationship. Right, dear friends? This brings us to an end of this lecture on discrimination. Today I have purposefully selected this case of African students because it is something that has took place recently. We have talked about Indian people being attacked in other parts of the world. That is again something recent. We have added a bit of history and geopolitics and things like that as well in this lecture. So in short, you can say that you have learned about many different things. Of course, we were talking about political science. The main subject is political science. In political science, we are talking about discrimination. But you will find that you'd be charmed to know that if you open your syllabus, then you will find that we have talked about many different things. From history, we have talked about geopolitics, we have talked about Make in India, economics, right? Many things. As I told you earlier as well, dear friends, that current affairs, general studies, they are all associated, they are interrelated with each other, and the more clarity on this interrelation you have, the better would be your understanding, and the better understanding of yours will determine the marks that you would be able to gain in your mains, your interview, and your prelims as well. With this, dear friends, I conclude our today's discussion on discrimination. I'll see you all soon with another topic of political science. Till then, enjoy your studies. Do not forget to provide me a valuable feedback on this particular lecture. Let me know how you find these lectures. Do subscribe to our channel. Share this video with other people who are preparing for civil services. If you have liked it, then sure they will like it as well. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on WhatsApp as well. If you like this video, then please give me a like and do not forget to pass me your valuable comment. This is Prashant Mamani signing off. Goodbye.